Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 of our story. The title was Three Questions, and it was written by the Russian author Leo Tolstoy. So, this is your chapter number 1 and pages 10 to 13, and we are going to finish the story today. So, we stopped when the hermit says that there is somebody who's coming to um, coming towards us. And if you remember, the hermit and the king both were trying to dig the uh, ground, and maybe they were planting something. And the king was trying to ask those three questions. He wanted the answer because he had gone to visit the hermit seeking for those answers, but he gets no answer. So we are going to soon find out if he gets those answers and what are those answers. So here comes someone running, said the hermit. So this is how a hermit would look like. So let's find out who is that someone running. The king turned around and saw a bearded man running towards them. So I'm going to show you how does a bearded man look in slides that come after it. His hands were pressed against his stomach and from which blood was flowing. When he reached the king, he fainted and fell to the ground. So the king also turns around and sees that there's a person who has a beard, and he comes and there is a big wound in his stomach. And the moment he sees the king and the hermit, he falls, he faints because of the blood loss. The king and the hermit removed the man's clothing and found a large wound in his stomach. The king washed and covered it with his handkerchief, but the blood would not stop flowing. So the king redressed the wound until at last the bleeding stopped. So this also shows that the king was a very nice and a caring person, because he has no idea who is this person. He doesn't know him. He's only there looking for his own answers to those questions. He's not gone there to dig the ground. He's not gone there to take care of a wounded man. But because the king is a compassionate man, a good man, he tries to help that man, the stranger, and finally he achieves what a doctor would say, that yes, I won the battle, and the blood has stopped and he's absolutely fine now. The man felt better and asked for something to drink. So the king goes and he brings fresh water and gives it to him. By this time, the sun had set and the air was cool. So, which means the entire day has passed. In the entire day, he had taken care of this stranger. The king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. The man closed his eyes and lay quiet. So that's the king serving that man, that wounded man, and trying to make sure that the blood stops coming from the wound. And that is the hermit sitting in the blue dress. When he awoke, it was several minutes before he could remember. So the man, the bearded man, because he was wounded, he rests on the bed. And when he wakes up, he of course doesn't remember where he was. It takes a little time for him to register where he was and what had happened to him. Where he was, who the strange bearded man lying on the bed was. "Forgive me," said the bearded man in a weak voice when he saw that king was awake. So it was the king who takes a little time to remember where he was. And the bearded man is looking at him and he says, "Please forgive me." "I do not know you, and I have nothing to forgive you for," said the king. So the king is a little surprised. He doesn't know the man. And why is this man asking for forgiveness? Instead of saying this, he should be saying, "Thank you that you took care of my wound." But this is something which is uncalled for, which comes as a surprise for him. "You do not know me, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who swore revenge on you because you put my brother to death and seized my property." So he says that you don't know me, but I know you because you had put my brother to death and you had also taken control of my property. "I knew you had gone alone to see that hermit, and I made up my mind to kill you on your way home." So this person says that I knew that you are the king, even if you were dressed up in a simple person dress. And I thought that here you will not have any guards to protect you, and this is the time and this is the place that I can kill you. But the day passed and you did not return. And why does he not return? Because the hermit was not giving him the answers, and the king continued to sit there looking and waiting for the answer. So I left my hiding place and I came upon your bodyguard who recognized me and wounded me. So the king doesn't know him, but the bodyguard knows him. And the moment the bodyguard sees this man, he stabs him. I escaped from him, but I should have died if you had not dressed my wounds. I wished to kill you, and you have saved my life. So that is why he apologizes and he asks for forgiveness and says that you did not know me even then, you took good care of me. I tried to kill you, but God had some other plans. Your bodyguard hurt me, and you are the one who took care of my wounds. So I wanted to kill you, but you saved my life. And then he continues and says, now if I live, I will serve you as your most faithful servant and will order my sons to do the same. Forgive me. So, just one act of kindness, one act of generosity, and what has happened? His life has turned the most sown enemy. The enemy who had sown revenge, the enemy who had said that I'm going to kill you, has become his friend and has become kind of a slave. And he says, I'm going to serve you, and even my sons are going to serve you. The king was very happy to have made peace with his enemy, and it was such an easy task. And to have won him over as a friend, he not only forgave him, but also said he would send his servants and his own doctor to look after him. And the king also promises and says that I am going to make sure that you get your property back, because now we are not enemies, we are friends. Leaving the wounded man, the king went out of the hut and looked round for the hermit. So why is he looking? He's still thinking, he's still wanting to get those answers from the wise hermit. Before going away, he wished one more to get answers to his questions. So once more, he's trying to figure out if he gets those answers. The hermit was on his knees sowing seeds. Remember, they had dug the ground. Now is the time to sow the seeds in the beds that had been dug the day before. The king went up to the hermit and said, for the last time, I beg you, please, to answer my questions, wise man. But they have already been answered, said the hermit, still bending down to the ground and looking up at the king as he stood before him. How have I been answered? What do you mean? Do you not see? If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday, pitied is when you have full sympathies because that hermit was old and weak. So, what does the king do? The king thinks that if I make his work easier by supporting him in digging the earth, maybe he'll take some rest and maybe he's going to give me my answers. So he said, if you had not pitied my weakness yesterday and had not dug these beds for me, you would have gone away. So he says that if you had not worked with me, if you had not supported me, you would have gone from that spot. Then that man would have attacked you and you would have wished you had stayed with me. So if the king would have not helped the hermit, he would have gone out, and out the enemy was waiting for him. And why could the enemy not kill him? Because the king had not gotten out. He was still helping inside the hermit. So the most important time was when you were digging the beds, and I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. So if you remember, they had three questions. The first question was, what is the right time to begin something? So according to the hermit, he says the most important time was when you were digging the beds. The second question was, which people should he listen to? And he says, I was the most important man that you should have listened to me. The third question was, what was the most important thing for him to do? And the most important thing was to do that business of digging. Afterwards, when the man ran to us, the most important time was when you were caring for him. So he goes on and he says, what's the next? So the most important time was when he was caring for his enemy without knowing that he's the enemy. Because if you had not dressed his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So it is always better to have more friends than enemies in the world. So he was the most important man at that point of time, and what you did to him was your most important business. So remember, then there is only one time that is important, and that time is now. So if you want to do something, you do it now. The most necessary, the most important person is the person you are with at a particular moment. So even if you are playing with your friend, that person is your most important person, because if he was not there, you would not be playing that game. For no one knows what will happen in the future and whether we will meet anyone else. So now is the time. The most important person is the person that you are with. Now the third question was, what is the most important business? Was the most important thing that the king should be doing? So the most important business is to do that person good. So wherever, whichever person you are sitting with, you should always be doing good to that person, as the king did good with the hermit by digging the ground, and also with his enemy by washing his wound and making him better, because he was sent into this world for that purpose alone. So the three questions was, what was the right time to begin something? The answer is now. Which people should you listen to? The answer is the person you are with now. What is the most important thing for him to do? To do that person good. So these were the three questions and these were the three answers. So finally, the king gets the answers from the hermit by experiencing something along with the hermit. So these were the words and phrases that we came across, and I wanted to show you what's a bearded man. So this is how a bearded man would look like. It was said that that stranger that came faints. So this is how you faint when you lose consciousness. You don't know what's happening around you. So wound is an injury. When you say you saw revenge, you mean that you want to hurt something because you have also been hurt in some way because of that person. When you say you have escaped, it means you managed to get away. On his knees sowing seeds in the beds, that is how you put your knees on the ground, and that is how you sow seeds. So let's go to the comprehension after the story and find out if we were able to understand the story. So complete the following sentences by adding the appropriate parts of the sentences given in the box. So the bottom box is where you will find your answers, and the sentences are where you're going to put them. So many wise men answered the king's questions, but their answers were so varied that the king was not satisfied. So that's how you complete it. Someone suggested that there should be a council of wise men. And why? To help the king act at the right time. So that's your complete sense in complete sentence. Someone else suggested that the king should have a timetable and follow it strictly. The king requested the hermit to answer 3 questions. The king washed and dressed the bearded man's wound, but the bleeding would not stop. So all these 5 sentences can be completed by looking down in the box provided for you, and you take those phrases and put them, and then it makes a complete sentence, and those are the 2 appropriate parts. Each of the following has 2 blanks, and you have to fill in the blanks with appropriate form of the words that are given in the brackets. So the dash said that only fresh evidence would make him change his dash. So the word that has been given to us is judge, so we are going to change that word. So the judge said that only fresh evidence would make him change his judgment. So that's how we do it. So the judge said that only fresh evidence would make him change his judgment. Second, I didn't notice any serious dash of opinion among the debaters, although they dash from one another over small points. So the word that has been given to us is differ. I didn't notice any serious difference of opinion among the debaters, although they differed from one another over small points. So we have one word and we change that word to make it more meaningful. Let's go to the next one. It is a fairly simple question to dash, but will you accept my dash as final? So we have the word answer. It is a fairly simple question to answer, but will you accept my answer as final? So it's the same. Number 4. It isn't dash that dash should always be the mother of invention. So the word is necessary. It isn't necessary that necessity should always be the mother of invention. So with this, we come to the end of comprehension as well as the story. So I do hope that you enjoyed the story and you also got the answers to what the king was asking as those 3 questions. So it's a beautiful story by the Russian author Leo Tolstoy, and we finished it in 2 parts. We come to the end of this session and this class. Bye-bye for now.